Breaking news, and it's more bad news for the Baltimore Ravens. Our Jason La Canfora is reporting that the Ravens are bracing for the likely loss of Marcus Peters and Gus Edwards, suffering knee injuries on back-to-back plays at practice today, and initial tests, according to Jason La Canfora, revealing likely ACL tears. And obviously Marcus Peters would be a magnificent loss for that defense, but it's the running back room that's been the story for the Ravens this offseason. They've already lost J.K. Dobbins for the year. They've already lost Justice Hill for the year. And now the Ravens fearing that Gus Edwards is out for the year. They just went out and signed Le'Veon Bell to the practice squad earlier on in the week. So let's try to sort things out here. Dave Richard, our fantasy guru, joins us. A lot of people were scrambling the last couple of days to figure out what to do in that Ravens backfield. I even picked up Le'Veon Bell just as a kind of a stash guy a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And now it looks like, he might play in game one.
He might play in game one. I would expect him to get elevated to the active roster. They also have Trenton Cannon there. But with Gus Edwards not there, they need a running back who's got some speed, who's got some power, who knows the offense. And we saw it in the preseason that it was Tyson Williams, who certainly has those capabilities. He's also not bad as a pass blocker. I was impressed by what I saw during the preseason, Chris, and I have no doubt that he will get a good opportunity to be the feature back for the Ravens. But the thing is that we talked about this when J.K. Dobbins got hurt on this very set, that the Ravens like using multiple backs. So it could be Tyson Williams who begins the year as the guy that gets maybe 12 to 15 touches per game, and then it's going to be split up amongst the other two. But if Le'Veon Bell ends up being really good and it looks like he's in good shape, he could end up being the one that takes over, which is crazy to say because he looked like a shell of his former self when he was with Kansas City. And I wouldn't rule out the Ravens making another move here, Chris. They're going to add somebody else to this backfield now, and it's going to be somebody that's got a little bit of juice.
Is it somebody that you think is out there in free agency or maybe potentially pull a trade for somebody?
I wonder if they bring Mark Ingram back. He's on Houston right now. The Texans have a fire sale. They got a big for sale sign up in front of their entire roster, except for anybody that's a rookie or a second-year player. So I'd imagine that he's somebody that's there. Same team, David Johnson, if they want somebody that's got that passing downs role and is a physical type of running back, he could fit in for them. But as far as on the way, we could talk all day long about Adrian Peterson and Devontae Freeman. These are just not names that are going to get people excited like they once would have.
There are big names like Le'Veon Bell, but the names that we are going to see in game one, I'm going to be honest, I don't know much about these guys.
Right.
You've seen a couple of them in preseason. What can you tell us about these running backs they do have?
So Tyson Williams has good speed, good change of direction, pretty decent hands. We didn't really see a whole lot of that in preseason, but a good pass blocker. He does have an injury history. There's a reason why he wasn't a bigger name when he was a prospect, when he came along the way, when he entered the league. He was an undrafted running back. But he's got the opportunity now, and that's really what matters first and foremost in fantasy football is the opportunity that a player has. And here's a player who was stuck he was a special teams player who's now being elevated into a role where he's going to get 15 touches per game, and he's not that bad. He looked good in the preseason. That offensive line is fine, and just about any running back that's playing alongside Lamar Jackson is going to get some good efficiency because defenses have to defend against both of those players running. But if I were the Ravens, I'd put him in bubble wrap until the game on Monday.
Going to talk, they got the Raiders on Monday. We're going to talk a little bit more about Lamar Jackson in just a second. Just want to fill everybody in once again. Ravens at practice today actually called practice because on back-to-back plays, bad knee injuries to both Gus Edwards and cornerback Marcus Peters. We'll talk more about Marcus Peters in a little bit with our Pick Six podcast guys, but we're focusing fantasy-wise right now, Dave. What does this do to Lamar Jackson? They were hoping they could put him under center more, maybe not have him run as much.
I think they're going to be able to still do what they want to do with Lamar Jackson, and that should be to just let Lamar be Lamar. I don't think this puts any added pressure on him in terms of running the ball more, but it does put added pressure on him just overall because now defenses are going to be really keyed in on him. They're going to try and force him to throw. Hopefully he made better adjustments there. And the Ravens did take steps in that direction by bringing in Sammy Watkins and adding Rashad Bateman in the draft, but those guys just aren't necessarily available. At least he's got Marquise Brown back. I do think Marquise Brown has some good potential this week, if not over the course of the season. And I love Lamar Jackson for the matchup against Las Vegas in week 1. I'd be stunned if the Raiders shut him down in the game. So this is going to be something that the Ravens are just going to have to piece together game by game. It's going to be a running back by committee with Tyson Williams leading the way. Hopefully he does a good enough job so that Lamar Jackson doesn't feel that pressure where he's got to do everything himself. Because I'll tell you what, if he feels too much of that pressure, Chris, I'm worried that he could be the next one to break down.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Do you want some names, some running backs to pick up?
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people were going to start Gus Edwards this weekend, and now you can't do it. So a couple of Jets running backs that are still out there in a bunch of leagues. Tevin Coleman is available in 46% of leagues. Ty Johnson's available in 91% of CBS Sports leagues. I'm
writing it down right now.
You should write it down too. I think Ty Johnson has a chance to be maybe the second best running back with the New York Jets. And a guy that you could pick up right now, available in about 60% of CBS leagues, is Justin Jackson in LA. We don't know the status of Austin Eckler. We know that Eckler had a hamstring injury. It kept him out of practice on Wednesday. Haven't heard from the Chargers yet on Thursday. But if Eckler doesn't practice again, that's the guy who's starting for the Chargers, and it's against Washington. It's not an easy matchup, but that's another name that you could turn to. And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to say it. Le'Veon Bell, available in 75% of CBS Sports leagues. It's a guy who's going to play, which is better than Gus Edwards, unfortunately.
Boy, oh boy. Yeah, Gus Edwards likely has torn his ACL, and that would mean he's done for the season. Marcus Peters suffered potentially that same fate today, according to our Jason Lockenfora. That's Dave Richard joining us here for the fantasy aspect of this. JLC tweeting, Ravens bracing for loss of Marcus Peters and Gus Edwards for the season after suffering knee injuries in practice today, as has been reported. Initial tests revealed likely ACL tears. Running back, a huge concern, obviously, and a lot of people scrambling. Ravens are scrambling, and so are fantasy owners as well. That's why Dave Richard was here to help us out. Going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. Will Brinson and John Breach from the Pick Six podcast will join us and discuss a little bit more the impact of Marcus Peters potentially being lost for the season, along with Gus Edwards.
Want more of the Fantasy Football Today podcast and nonstop year-round fantasy advice? It's simple. Hit the subscribe button and hang with us all throughout the year.